views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Hyman. Today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, we'll give you an update on what's been going on right here in the Bronx, including national news. Former FBI Director James Comey, in a memo, states that President Donald Trump asked him to end the investigation against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. This comes a day after reports that says President Trump shared highly classified information with the Russian foreign minister as well as the Russian ambassador. We'll sit down with our political commentators to get the latest take on what's happening in Washington. Then after that, we'll discuss the GOP healthcare bill and how it'll affect many people, especially those right here in our borough. And then we talk about gun and gang violence right here in our borough and how one program is going about trying to reduce violence. And lastly, we'll hear from a foundation that provides many after-school programs for children throughout New York City. We'll discuss their fairly new program as well as an upcoming event. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. And hello everyone, I'm your host Darren Hyman, and today is Wednesday, May 17th. Of course, you're watching Open, a live program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. Now, we want to encourage you to stay connected to us, and you can find out more about us on Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, starting off with some updates, New York City is investing $90 million for 2 diversion centers. The diversion center will allow those with mental issues in the criminal justice system to be placed in treatment centers instead of Rikers Island. Samaritan Daytop Village, a drug and rehab center, along with Homeless Operator Project Renewal, are among the 2 that were awarded a 10-year contract to run the centers. The diversion centers are set to open in 2018 and will provide mental and medical services counseling, along with medically supervised substance stabilization. A new report from the city's 3 library systems says that 216 branches across the 5 boroughs are facing critical maintenance. Executives from these various libraries expressed their frustration and are calling on the city to give $150 million more to library maintenance, with an additional $34 million to expand a 7-day service. Currently, the New York City overall capital budget for the library system is $1 billion, but many say that number is still not enough. Here in our borough, West Farm Library is among the libraries that are also facing maintenance issues. And of course, we'll continue to bring you that story as more information becomes available. Well, Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration will be sending its resources to the first ever City Resource Fair in the Bronx. Bronxites will have the opportunity to speak to city administrators from various agencies about issues right here in our Bronx community. Senior officials will be able to answer questions regarding property taxes, sidewalk repairs, free clinics, and much more. The event will take place May 23rd at Bronx Boroughs Hall and also at Veterans Memorial Hall. Bronxites who are interested can sign up at nyc.gov. Well, people who don't have unlimited data, well, now you can experience free Wi-Fi with the city's new Wi-Fi kiosk. According to the Daily News, New Yorkers have used more than a petabyte of data, which is almost equivalent to $15 million of servicing on the internet. Now, last year, there were about 109 emails and 1 million hours of videos used in data via kiosks. Currently, there are 934 kiosks citywide, with 84 of them right here in the Bronx. And Bronx bankers cashed in on a great meal recently. A breakfast hosted by Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. as part of Bronx Week highlighted the success with the Bronx, along with local officials and businesses throughout the borough. Our very own Arlene Makoko was there and brings us a story.
A staggering drop in unemployment from 15% to 5% since 2010 to $1.8 billion in investment to the infrastructure of the Bruckner-Sheridan interchange and the rebuilding of the borough's ecosystem, specifically the Bronx River, where visitors can now enjoy canoe rides. Those were just some of the gains shared by Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. at the 19th Annual Bankers Breakfast at the Villa Barone, which kicked off day 2 of Bronx Week.
This is the time to put our feet full throttle so that we can continue to be the national paradigm for urban renewal.
It didn't happen overnight, but through the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation, headed by Marlene Cintron, and the Bronx Initiative Corporation's Madeline Marquez, now at Ponce de Leon Bank, and the Small Business Administration's Beth Goldberg, interest on the part of the business and banking community grew.
This is my second time here, so excited to hear all the good things that are happening in the Bronx. I think it's a great thing for the community, for the business community especially.
So much great news coming out about unbelievable things that are happening in the Bronx, all very positive. Unemployment down, more jobs being created, more people want to live and work in the Bronx.
Also there, established businesses like Lloyd's Carrot Cake and others that are new like Rycheck, moving into a BronxNet location in June.
It's a wonderful location. We're so happy to be there. It's got great parking right next to Home Depot. A lot of our customers are business people, builders, contractors, so it'll be very easy for them to come in and out. It's going to be a high-tech, beautiful store, so we're very excited about being there.
Lloyd's Carrot Cake came here 31 years ago when people were running away from the Bronx, but we found it as a place that we could start and build a business, and we're so glad that we've done that.
Also speaking, New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie and U.S. Congressman Adriano Espaillat, who both gave Diaz Jr. high marks for the newly invigorated Bronx economy.
I don't know of any other place in the country where you have a double-digit drop in unemployment and that person doesn't deserve a promotion.
I'm going to say this, and we're not supposed to get political, but just imagine what his vision has done for the Bronx, what it would mean if he had the opportunity to do it for the entire city.
These are challenging times. They've been partners of mine in the past, and it feels good when they have nice things to say about you, but right now I just want to make sure that we continue to build a better Bronx.
And that's something he'll be doing a lot of over the next couple of days as he and the entire borough celebrate Bronx Week. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
And thank you, Arlene. Of course, stay tuned to your BronxNet as well as Open to find out more information about Bronx Week activities. All right, we're taking a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have more Open right after this.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
What's good? What's up? What's happening today?
Let's do those pearly whites, man.
Yeah! The boys, check it out.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to try?
I'm fine. Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up?
What's happening? How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir. See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Fancy pants peanut butter? A big screen television? You haven't even bought a sofa yet. A motorcycle? When your father finds out, he's gonna flip his shoes with 2 buckles? What do you even need 2 buckles for?
Mr. Big Shot, buying whiskey shots for everybody in the bar. From the looks of it, I'd say nobody even remembers. Feed the pig.
Welcome back. According to a memo written by former FBI Director James Comey, after an Oval Office meeting with the president, President Donald Trump allegedly asked Mr. Comey to shut down a federal investigation against the former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Just the day before, the Washington Post reported that President Trump revealed highly classified information to the Russian Prime Minister and Ambassador, which Trump and the White House ended up defending. Here now to talk about these latest topics, we welcome now BMC's professor as well as attorney at law, J.C. Polanco, our political advisor, and also owner of Retrovision Media, Lee Bynes. And we'll start off with Lee with some breaking news out of Russia.
You know what? I haven't had a chance to confirm it yet, but NBC is reporting, as a matter of fact, this morning, 8:23, as I'm walking out the door, that Putin actually has a recording of the tape, and he's says that he could use that to prove that Donald Trump did not, I repeat, did not provide any classified information. The problem that I have with this situation is, if this is true, how does Putin have a recording of that and it hasn't been released to the American public yet? That I find is amazing. I also find that that's a difficult situation for the president to find himself in, that he has to have Vladimir Putin to come to his defense.
I just heard about this news this morning, sitting here, and anything that comes from Putin, I just don't believe. I mean, he runs a dictatorship. Is what he runs in Russia, where the only information that we get is the information that he allows for us to get. And the only information that his own people get is the information that he allows his people to get. So he's not friendly to journalists. If he does have a tape, I'm sure he can edit it. So I don't know how much the American public will trust anything coming out of Putin's mouth at this point.
But could I just step on that for just a minute and see, if Donald Trump didn't have such an issue with credibility himself, it would be easier to make that call to say that you can't trust anything that Vladimir Putin has to say. Right now, it's because of that wide gap in the credibility is one of the reasons why he's going to be faced down by Comey in the next
one of the
couple
reasons he has a hard time with credibility is his connection to Putin. So anything about Putin defending President Trump is going to lack credibility by default. So I don't think that the American public is going to see someone who many believe is his friend anyway, standing up for his friend and believe the stuff that's coming out of Putin's mouth.
Well, as for credibility, let's go to the quote that the president says in a memo, quote, referring to Michael Flynn. Quote, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go." He told Comey that Flynn hadn't done anything wrong, and Comey was concerned that the president was trying to, quote, stop the investigation.
But that memo was a memo of conversation that then Director Comey wrote for his own file, like he does normally. The New York Times is reporting that memo of conversation was left at the FBI headquarters and that it's there for us to see. The issue is we haven't seen that. A lot of people are pushing back, saying that actually didn't happen. So that memo, to be fair to the viewers, is a memo that comes from Comey, not a memo that comes from the White House, and it's not a memo that we have seen. This is an anonymous source at the FBI who's given that up.
But officials in Washington say this can be introduced as evidence.
Absolutely can be introduced as evidence. The Committee on Intelligence, the Committee on Judicial Affairs, or the Judicial Committee of the House, they can also subpoena those records for sure.
You know, unfortunately, this is just another one of Donald Trump's self-inflicted wounds, simply because of the fact that had he had any idea how Washington works, how government works, taking a simple civics lesson, he would understand that being president of the United States does not give you say over the other branches of government. And for him to come into the office and think that the director of the FBI worked for him and would acquiesce to these demands, if you will, if he wanted to keep his job, that could rise to meet the standard of high crimes and misdemeanors by someone in the White House.
More specifically, and I think you're referring to the obstruction of justice charge
Absolutely.
that exists here. You know, the president has enormous amounts of power. The Constitution gives him a lot of power. For example, the Constitution says it was okay for President Trump to disclose that information to Russia as to what was going on in the airlines and commercial flights. Anything that the president says, if he discloses it, it's no longer classified. So that's the kind of power he has. Now, is it unethical? Does it put our lives in danger? Does it put the lives of intelligence officers at danger? Yes, yes, and yes. But does he have the authority? Yes. And to your point, the FBI director does work for the president. So yes, the president can fire an FBI director like we just saw. The issue is, what was the reason?
Perfect.
Is it because you wanted to obstruct justice? That's a crime, and that's the high crimes and misdemeanor that you're hinting at as far as impeachment talks are coming. I don't think impeachment is going to happen anytime soon because remember, you need the votes in the Congress to impeach the president. There's no other option here. You can't sue the president for libel. You can't sue the president because he misbehaved. It's either impeachment or you leave him alone. And I know the votes are not there in Congress, either in the House or in the Senate, either in the House to impeach or in the Senate to convict.
You know what, I hate to let JC walk into that one, but quite frankly, based upon what I've been hearing over the last couple of days, a lot of the Republicans are starting to speak out against what they see what's going on right now. I think that the only reason why the Republican establishment, Wall Street, and special interest groups have been holding back up until now is because they want those tax cuts. They want the tax code reformed. They want that $1 trillion infrastructure bill passed through so a lot of contractors can get their hands on that dough and moving forward. When Wall Street realizes that the president has become a liability and other Republicans have decided that he's such a liability that their futures are being threatened, you're going to see a lot more people coming out a lot sooner than later.
I hear you, but you have to remember that these members of the House of Representatives have gerrymandered these districts so that they can always win re-election. With the exception of about 20 House members where Hillary Clinton won those districts, and those 20 House members happen to be Republicans where Hillary won in November, with the exception of those, the rest of those Republican members of the House are in relatively safe districts, and those people in those districts support Donald Trump, see any attack on him as fake news, and you better be careful if you're an incumbent Republican attacking the president because you're going to get primaried from the right, and then your story is over. So it's much more complicated than just Wall Street. It's really all political.
Do Republicans stand a chance supporting Donald Trump in a midterm election? As we talked before, there's a possibility that they could lose seats.
Absolutely, no question about it. No, you're right about that. We can absolutely lose seats in the House. We can lose seats in the Senate. The issue is this: the Democrats have more seats to defend in the midterm elections in the Senate than we do. And it's important to remember that you may be able to flip the Senate a lot easier than you would be able to flip in the House. Our majority in the House is so large that it actually exceeds those moderate Republican members of the House that may be losing their positions in 2018.
The thing is that you only need one House. You only need to grab either the Senate or the House of Representatives. You don't need both to slow Trump down. But I think that at the rate of these incidents that keep occurring, I don't think that, personally, I would say that he could face a impeachment, articles of impeachment, long before the.
Well, based on what we saw out of Atlanta, we saw a close race in Atlanta, and that was an election there.
That race was not over yet.
It's not over yet.
Right, exactly. And so when you're talking about that, it gives an indication as to what we could possibly see in 2018. If the race isn't over right now, and we thought that it was pretty much a done deal before, and it's not, going forward, you have to admit that both the Republican Party is going to have a lot of challenges, and the Democratic Party is going to really have to step up their game.
Well, you know what? The Democrats cannot sit back and just take advantage of a situation. They've got to, actually put forward plans and actually show an agenda moving forward. Just watching Trump collapse is not the answer. The collapse is coming. There's no question about that, because a lot of Republicans, I will stand by this, are beginning to wonder whether or not that Donald Trump is somebody to hang your hat on. They are looking at his approval numbers sink on a daily basis. It's not just happening here in the United States. This man is going to go abroad. I believe his trip starts on Friday. For 9 days, he's going to have to speak to the Israelis. They're already pissed because the Israelis' intelligence was outed. Right. He's going to have to speak to 50 individuals that represent the Arab nations.
But
I can't wait to see that happen.
Having one house is not enough.
When he shows up at the G7, he's going to have to deal with a lot of whispers behind his back, because they know that he has no
Look, I was never a Trump Republican. I'd be one of those Republicans losing my mind if I were in the House or the Senate. I mean, none of this I approve of. I despise everything that's happening. I know a lot of Republicans today wish they would have listened to me and not supported this guy. But he's the president. And guess what? Those poll numbers were just as bad during the campaign. When you heard the videotape and the recordings of him on that bus, when you heard him say he wants a Muslim ban in December of 2015, when he called Mexicans all those names, when he says Megyn Kelly's bleeding from everywhere, all of those things he said, and all of the knowledge that he lacked during the debates, the man still won the election. So when you look at what I'm getting at is, the guy had terrible poll numbers, still won the election. And the reason he won that election is because how the Electoral College works. The Electoral College map is very similar to the congressional map. And that is why I believe that those poll numbers that you see today do not matter for purposes of the House of Representatives, because those individual districts are very different than the rest of the population. Those individual districts are hard red Republican seats, and they love Donald Trump. That's the truth. Now, you're referring to the activated Democrats. I see a lot of resistance movements across many states. Do those resistant movements and the activated Democrats affect those congressional districts? We don't know that. And unless you have both houses, there's no impeachment.
You get 30 seconds to get the last word.
Well, to step on his lines again, I would have to say that the Republicans have found themselves in a bind. Eventually, one of them are going to stand up. It has to be somebody with some reputation. It has to be somebody with something to lose, not someone who's just simply, I'm not running next term. And as soon as that happens, I believe the final dominoes will fall.
Of course, JC and Lee, that's why we bring you here every week to break this down. And of course, we'll be back with more next week. And thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Good to be back.
Listen, got to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more Open. We've got more show coming up right after this. Things are going to get a little bit lighter or tougher. Stay tuned. We'll find out.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
I'll be honest. Your resume, not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Adopting a new pet is a rewarding experience. And shelter pets make super pets. your new best friend, will steal your heart, bring you happiness, and enrich your life for years to come. You can make a difference in the life of an animal. Adopt and bring home a shelter pet today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
And welcome back. Recently, the House of Representatives passed the GOP health care bill to replace Obamacare. As the bill awaits decision from the Senate, many people are concerned with what might possibly be the outcome. Now, joining us to discuss the effects of the GOP health care bill, we welcome now the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Healthcare Policy from Affinity Health Plan. We welcome now Abby Udochi. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thanks, Darren.
Good to have you.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So a lot of talk is still about the American Health Care
yeah.
Act, and a lot of people have a lot of concerns.
Yes.
And so when we talk about this, first of all, with the new bill, what happens? How does this work out?
So I can't predict the future,
Right.
but I can give you information as I know it. The bill is dense. There are a lot of moving parts, a number of provisions that are going to impact a lot of Bronxites, New Yorkers, and people around the country. As a matter of fact, I estimate that there are about 50% of Bronx residents who will be impacted by the provisions in this bill if it should be 50% if it should become law. That is about 700,000, a little less than that, of the 1.38 million people who live in the Bronx. And these are people who get their health coverage through Medicaid managed care, through New York's Essential Plan, and through the Qualified Health Plan, all of which can be enrolled. They can enroll on using the New York State of Health Marketplace. So, like you say, this is a complicated issue, and a lot of folks are concerned. I think what's important for people to remember right off the bat is that this is not yet law of the land. The the ACA is the law of the land today, or Obamacare. ACA, Obamacare, Medicaid expansion, they are all wrapped up in the same, with the same ribbon, right? So folks don't have to be concerned yesterday, today, or even literally tomorrow about what's going to happen with their coverage, but this is a bill that they definitely should be following.
If it passes the Senate, then of course it becomes law. Then we have to deal with the ramifications thereof. And
Exactly
so for people who are questioning right now, a lot of questions about paying and how much am I going to pay if this new bill becomes enacted. So if the new bill goes forward, how much more are people paying?
Yeah, so that really is going to depend on the state that you live in. And whether or not the state that you live in is interested in implementing any number of waivers that they could use to request changes to the products that they offer on their marketplaces in their state. So we live in a very liberal state. We live in a state where the governor and the Medicaid director and those who are responsible for the government-sponsored health insurance products and even the commercial products are really interested, I can say sincerely, in making sure that everyone has access to health coverage who needs it and should have it. That's from adults to children to senior citizens. So the three products that I think Bronxites should really pay attention to are Medicaid, the Essential Plan, and the Qualified Health Plan. So what could happen with Medicaid? I doubt very highly that people who are eligible for Medicaid will in the future have to pay into Medicaid, like some states like Indiana require that Medicaid recipients who are in managed care pay $1 a month. I'm not hearing any conversation moving in that direction in New York if this bill should become law. The Essential Plan, though, is a product for which people do have to pay a small premium. If you qualify based on your income, there are a segment of folks who are in that product who pay $20 a month. The Essential Plan is a wonderful program in that New York State is one of only 2 states in the nation that have opted into this product. It's for people who are classified as the working poor. They are adults, they are working, typically low-wage jobs, and they have the opportunity to get very rich coverage through the Essential Plan. Now, the way the Essential Plan works is through tax subsidies. So you can receive a tax subsidy and pay for this coverage, so it's highly subsidized that way, plus you pay into the $20 a month, and some are free, depending on their income. So because the American Health Care Act changes the way the tax structure would work to fund this product, that's one of the things that people are really going to need to watch as the bill rolls through the Senate.
Walk me through a little bit with the pre-existing conditions, because that's on the hearts and minds of a lot of people.
It is.
The fact of whether or not I have pre-existing conditions and where that plays out in this particular bill.
Right. So from what I understand, pre-existing conditions are definitely in the bill, the American Health Care Act. So people don't have to worry about if they have a pre-existing condition, not being eligible for coverage. So a pre-existing condition will not keep you from getting coverage if this bill should become law. However, there is the matter of continuous coverage or continuous enrollment. So whether you have a pre-existing condition or not, if this bill should become law in its current form, what the AHCA calls for is for folks having no more than 63 days of disenrollment or unenrollment over the course of 12 months, continuous days. So if you should lose your coverage for 63 days or longer, depending on the state that you live in, according to this bill, which is not yet law, a state could or an insurer would be allowed to charge you 30% more for your premium for a 12-month period of time. So the bill calls this an incentive to retain your continuous coverage. So whether you have a pre-existing condition or not, you could fall into this loophole if the ACA should pass in its current form.
And we talk about if the bill passes, obviously it has
That's
to pass through the Senate. I know there's a lot of groundwork that's being done right now
That's right.
of making awareness, particularly with the population of the Bronx in here. What can people do in a season such as this, because we still have one more house to pass, if you will, before this goes forward?
Well, actually, there might be two more. So depending on how much work the Senate does on this bill, it might have to go back to the House.
Right.
Or they could put a joint committee together and decide what they're going to accept from the two different bills. And then they would have to vote again, and then it would go to the president for a signature. But so what that means is there's still time to impact how things turn out. And we know the groundswell of community activity that happened when the House tried to pass this the first time, and even the second time when it actually did pass, right? So it's really important for people to know, I think, a couple of things: to get educated and then to get engaged. To get educated, they can certainly go to, there are lots of resources on the internet. One of them that I like the most is the Kaiser Family Foundation, and that can be found at kff.org. They've got lots of information, detailed information about the provisions of the bill, and so any questions that you have can really be answered at that site. The other thing that folks can do is go to the New York State Board of Elections website, and right on the home page is a button for finding your elected official. And this is really critical. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, bipartisan, it doesn't matter. You should know who your elected official is, either as a member of Congress, state Senate, state assembly. Get in touch with your member of Congress and voice your opinion. If that member of Congress is having a town hall meeting in your neighborhood anytime soon, get engaged, go. Ask questions, make them explain themselves, make them talk about what this bill is going to do to impact their lives, and tell them whether or not you're in favor or you're against, so that they at least know what the people who they were elected to represent want them to do.
With your expertise, boots on the ground, seeing and hearing what people are saying, what's the mood? What are you getting from people on the street?
So that's a good question. So I work for a health plan, obviously, and we have members who call us or meet us at our community service centers. We have 18 of them around our 10-county service area in New York State, and people are concerned, rightly so. They want to know that their health coverage is going to remain intact no matter who's in the White House in Washington. They really want to just know that they will continue to have a relationship with their doctor. They will be able to take their children to get their immunizations. If they have a parent who's a senior, that parent will have access to their coverage, and they can move from one area of wellness to another in their lives. So it really is just important that folks not worry so much, but instead get active and get engaged in the conversation and get educated about what people are wanting to do to the health care that they have a right to.
And I think it's important to let people know that the Affordable Care Act is still in place.
That's exactly right. So please make a phone call, write a letter, get to a town hall meeting, voice your opinion. This is not yet law of the land. Law of the land is still the Affordable Care Act.
Abby Udochi, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Healthcare Policy at Affinity Healthcare Plan. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's
All
a pleasure.
righty. Listen, taking a quick break. Be back with more show. We're coming right back right after this.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it! I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's gonna happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We're back here on Open. Gun and gang violence continues to be an issue right here in the Bronx. Although shootings have fallen citywide with 998 episodes last year, gun arrests have risen to a 5-year high of 3,583, this coming to numbers provided by the New York Times. Here now to discuss the overall issue and the different methods taking place to help those in schools as well as youth prisons. We welcome now BRAG Program Director David Cobbin. David, good to have you back again.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good. In some ways things are good, but then in other ways we are talking about how challenging things are as gun arrests are rising.
That's correct. So a prior appearance here on the show, I talked about the Iron Pipeline, which is I-95, and how the guns come from the South. They come up through Georgia and the Carolinas, even Florida. But the recent trend is it's coming from Pennsylvania and Ohio as well now, and that's starting to increase. So if you really want to stop the gun violence, really it's all about the weapons. If there aren't any weapons, there's no shootings.
Right.
There's no killings. So we have to do something about that. And I know there's a lot of legislation behind who can possess firearms, individuals that have mental illness, things of that nature, whether they can obtain guns and have a right to carry them, those kind of things. But that's really the main issue. And here in the Bronx, 95 comes right through our borough.
Right.
So that's where all the infiltration of guns come in. Here, you can buy a gun at $200 in the South or in Ohio in the Midwest, and you can sell it here for $700, $800, $900. So if you buy 10 guns, that's a pretty good amount of money.
And you can make you can make some lucrative cash on that.
Absolutely.
What's being done? Because you talk about that 95 being that place where we coming from, both the East and the West. How do we lock down the East and the West in terms of community involvement in making our voice heard?
So it's the youth. They're directly connected. If you look at all the statistics, when all the shootings are involved, it boils down to the youths that are between the ages of 14 to 25. So our program, Bronx Rise Against Gun Violence program, Good Shepherd, Good Shepherd's been around for many years, working in communities with families and youth. And we see what can be in those communities and develop them and help families to get stronger. It's those group of individuals that we help out. So the BRAG program is designed to, A, reduce the gun violence by using a cure violence model that came out of Chicago years ago, came to New York. It's been so successful that it's national and it's global, and it's effective everywhere that it's implemented. And we've had a success rate of more than a year of no shooting in one of our locations, and the other one, come July, we'll celebrate a year there. And more importantly, we haven't had a homicide in that area since 2014. How do we do that? By hiring individuals who used to be these same youth, from the 14 to 25-year-olds engaged in this activity, and we go right into those communities, the worst areas, and we provide them with a lot of wraparound services to get them to put the guns down and pick up other activities, such as what you're doing, such as your camera crew here, such as the recording industry, computers, artwork, sports. Gangs are big on, if you have a trait and everyone knows this, if you're a baller, let's say you're excellent on the courts, and they know you have an opportunity to get somehow to the NBA and be one of those people that get out, they're all for it, and they push those individuals in that direction. So our thing is to actually go in, identify those youth, and we actually had a recent shooting, by the way, not far from here, and one of the victims is actually a well-known rapper, a young individual, who has some YouTube videos out, excellent individual, and we're going to get to him through that venue because we're actually building a music studio that I mentioned the last time on the show, and we're looking to open that in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And when we talk about the guns being recovered, obviously a lot of guns are being recovered. 3,000, almost 3,700 guns were recovered in the city, but 89% of those guns actually originated out of other states. And so when you talk about helping young people out, there's a lot that goes into prevention and awareness, but there's some things that really are outside of their scope.
There's plenty of things outside of their scope. So what happens is you got law enforcement, right? So there's a lot of different approaches to dealing with the youth. The one thing that we do is we try to meet them where they're at, and we know what's going on with them. The one thing we know about youth is the one thing they care about that they won't admit is what their peers think. The peer pressure, none of them will admit to the peer pressure. But that's the number one thing they do, because if you watch them and they do something, the first thing they do is look around to see who's looking, that kind of thing. So we use a group approach and an individual approach with them, and we use people who were just like them, who they remember, because the people that I hire are former, gang members, former shot callers. They still live in those same neighborhoods, but the youth have seen them change their lives around. So when we come in the neighborhood and we talk about, put the guns down and pick up some other avenues to get you out of lifestyle, because none of them want to get shot. None of them want to shoot anyone, because they know behind that comes a long stretch in prison. So the moment you start talking about an opportunity not to do that, they jump all over it.
And that's the message or the question I want to ask. What about the receptivity on the part of young people? Because I get this all the time. People say, oh, well, then the young people just don't listen. They don't pay attention. They don't want to hear anything you got to say. But you're boots on the ground. What do you hear?
So the one thing they're always talking about is, I need a job, man. I need a job. Dave, I need a job. What do you got? And we have, part of our wraparound service is job readiness, job development, job employment. So we have programs that are designed for them to come in, and it's soft skills. It's simple things like, for example, our job skills program doesn't start till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? Because kids don't wake up at 8 o'clock to get to a job by 9. They don't know anything about that. So we give them incentives. Simple, small, incremental money to get them to come in. So if they come in on time, they can earn a certain amount. If they have ID, they can earn a certain amount. If down the road they produce a resume and all, that's another one. And then in the second phase, now is when we ask them to come a little earlier, because they're in, they got the buy-in. And in the third phase, they get an internship, paid internship, with the promise of a full-time employment at the end of that. So this is the kind of things that get their attention. But more importantly is that they see we've already done that. So they can see that this works.
And having that good example always does. What's happening in the future? You got future plans? What's coming up during the summer?
So we're big in the summer in Bragg North and Bragg West, because we have 2 units, 2 teams of 6 that do this work in the worst parts of the 4-6 and the 4-7 precinct, on Jerome and in Bronxwood. And so June, July, and August, we have street permits. We've been doing this for years. And we have a huge street fair with food, music, cultural dances, all kinds of displays of our message of peace. And we do this June, July, and August in both locations, with elected officials come out, clergy come out, the community come out, and we have a huge party. And every hour we stop and welcome everyone and let them know, who we are, what we do, and they already know who we are, and they look forward to this now every year. You got a 5-hour period. And that's 15 hours total, 30 if you combine both teams in the summer, where they're engaged in this kind of activity as opposed to, the other types.
And obviously a game changer and a difference maker?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
David Cobb, our guest here, program director at Bragg. And so big summer coming up. And of course, you got to come back and let us know what's happening.
Absolutely, we'll do.
All right, David Cobb. All right, stay tuned. Got more show. We'll be right back right after this.
you help. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who once took care of you.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs, just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed. And they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs. And it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Barry, time is running out. According to my calculations, 1 in 5 kids in America struggles with hunger. How can so many children face hunger when there's more than enough food to feed them all? You're right, Barry. We can help solve hunger by teaming up with Feeding America to get food to hungry kids in communities across the country.
Help Flint and the Feeding America network of food banks get food to the people who need it in your community. Find your local Feeding America food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
Together, we're Feeding America.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Through its many after-school programs, the Sports and Arts Foundation provides its students with health and wellness activities, along with skills to enhance their academic performance. The foundation's STEM program gives students the opportunity to explore and learn more in the 4 core STEM areas. Joining us now to discuss the foundation's STEM program and their upcoming STEM Day event, we welcome now STEM Master Teacher Allison Jeffrey, and thank you for coming and being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Great, great. And when we talk about STEM, obviously, a lot of work is going on these days in the area of STEM, and you guys are having a very special weekend.
Yes, so we're having a STEM Day fair from 10 to 2 on Saturday at York College in Queens. And the Bronx Community College is going to be doing the workshop on drones. So we're going to be teaching kids a history about drones and then allowing them to experiment with the drones on the field, on the outdoor field. We also have the Black Pilots of America coming to do an aviation workshop. And then we're going to have a coding workshop and some other STEM challenges. So kids will be able to come in throughout the day and have experience 3 different workshops, and then later on we'll have a lunch and an air show.
So we're using the word STEM, and our viewers may not be familiar, so somebody who doesn't know what STEM is, tell them.
STEM means science, technology, engineering, and math. So what we're trying to do is to get kids more involved in those 4 sectors, because there's lots of money to be made. So for example, the average computer science major graduating makes about $98,000 in New York City. The average salary in New York City is $57,000. So we want to get more of our kids, because we're servicing kids in communities that are underprivileged. So we want to get more kids involved in that so that they can go to college and they can go into their high schools requesting computer science and different types of STEM-related majors.
When you look and you see the movie Hidden Figures, obviously I told people that it created a different kind of buzz. I mean, like what Tiger Woods did for golf, I think Hidden Figures. Have you found that people want to be a little bit more involved in STEM now?
Yes. only because especially there's been a big initiative for girls who code, right? That started a few years ago, and this is just adding to that. And I think that especially for kids of color, minority students, those type of movies are important because they show you that it is possible. There might be challenges, but it is possible. And we're trying to make those challenges less. We're trying to bridge the gap so that education is more robust for the students. So in our after-school programs, they spend about 3 hours after their day ends at school, and they experience different activities, sports, arts, and we also, some schools offer STEM. So they'll be able to take robotics, coding. So I'm trying, and my department, education department of, SASF, we're trying to improve and offer more robust offerings to the school.
And how's that going?
It's going, well, we're piloting certain programs. For example, recently I spoke with the program Men Teach. So we're piloting different programs, and it depends on the school, the culture of the school. So we kind of go in, look at the culture of the school, what they need, what the students need, and try to bridge that gap.
So this particular STEM day is going to be a little bit different than what you've traditionally done before, and there'll be some differences. So let our viewers know.
Yeah, so in prior, like most science fairs, they have kids bring their experiments that they've been working on throughout the year. We kind of did a different approach this year where we're having kids come in and do workshops so that a kid can learn about aviation. So for example, I recently did some work at your college learning about aviation every Saturday, following their STEM master teacher. And it was very interesting. Students were able to sit in rooms where they can pilot makeshift planes. So those type of things that we want to offer to the students. And for example, Black Pilots of America, I didn't even know about until I attended your college's STEM program, their NASA program on Saturdays, that there's a group of people that these pilots, they're black pilots that own their own planes, and they offer courses. So they've offered us the opportunity to learn from them, and they're gonna do an air show with remote control planes. Kids are going to get the opportunity. So, for example, if you want to teach about aeronautics, you start off by offering students to build paper airplanes, right? You get their interest, because everybody's built a paper airplane before, right?
Horribly, but go ahead, yeah.
So, you know, we have them test, we teach them certain vocabulary, then we would go into wooden planes, then we go into space shuttles. But you're scaffolding, and you're starting from a knowledge base that everyone has. So we're just trying to bridge that interest and give it some exciting classes. So coding is a big thing. Coding is everywhere, right? And so for the next, by 2020, we're gonna have lots of jobs that are related to computer science, and we're trying to get the kids prepared for that.
For people who don't know about the Sports and Arts Foundation, tell us.
So originally Sports and Arts started out by its name, Sports and Arts, but 3 years ago, so it's about 25 years old, and 3 years ago they added the education department because there is a need. When you put kids in an after-school program, they're going to need homework help. They're going to need help for the subjects that they don't understand. So, and they're also going to need fun activities that are related to education in those four sectors. So we're trying to, so for example, we pick curriculum. So right now we're planning for the summer curriculum for sports and arts. So we offer, there are about 20,000 kids in this program. So what we offer has to be meaningful. So that's why, as of 3 years ago, they added the education department to fill and bridge that gap.
So if people want more information, what do they do?
They can go to sasfny.org to find out more. There are a list of schools. Many of, we have about 5 Bronx schools participating in this Saturday STEM Day, and they can find out information there.
And with regards to this weekend's events, what can people do? Is it open, wide open for the public?
It's not open for the public. It's only for students whose schools have SASF at their school sites. So they would have to register with me. It's at ajeffrey, AJEFFREY, at sasfny.org.
And make sure that you get registered there. How big are drones today? We know how big they are, but in terms of kids and really latching on to drones.
Well, I'm like a major geek, but, and so when I go into schools, I ask, and there's so much. So, for example, I did a survey to find out what the type of workshops the schools would be interested, and 60% of the schools responded with drones. So by 2020, there should be about 100,000 drone jobs, job-related. offerings. So students, drones are major. It's not just for weddings anymore. It's not just for going on vacation. Drones are being offered everywhere. So every type of sector can be related to drones. And we will be able to teach the kids that on Saturday. So they'll learn all of that, the different industries that use drones. They'll also learn about the history of drones, that it's not just something that just happened within the last 10 years. So the military has been using it for decades, and now more of the public is using it. With the laws, of course.
Of course, but can't just fly it anywhere.
No, you can't.
Find out
so we'll be teaching them that too.
Right.
But you can easily buy a drone now. Like, for example, I'm shopping for a drone.
Are you serious?
Yes, because my thing is, like, I can't just talk about it.
You have to have one. You gotta have one.
one.
So how hard is the research for you to find the right drone and this and that? Do you know what you,
well, the thing about when you go to buy a drone, there are already people who have, like, experimented with them and given reviews. So I've been reading a lot about the reviews. What are the capabilities of each type of drone? Like, what are the safety issues? You can build your own drones also. So that's just my research.
Are you closing in on a deal?
I'm actually, like, there's so many great ones that I'm not sure. So I think I'm going to defer to Bronx Community College for some advice.
All right. Well, let us know how that works out for you.
Thank you.
Allison Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming to share with us.
Thank
Master
you.
Teacher of STEM and Sports and Arts Foundation. And want to let people know that you can come on out this weekend. Well, not you can come on out, but they can come on out this weekend who've already registered and already in that. Come on out this weekend and have a wonderful, wonderful time. Allison, thanks so much for coming with us. All righty, listen, we've come to the end of our show today. Hard to believe, an hour goes by real quick. But listen, I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. Most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum, Channel 67, Verizon Files, Channel 33, or watch us anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. I'm Darren Jaime. It's been a pleasure coming to your homes. Of course, stay safe and keep this channel wide open. God bless.
Live with a human for a while, and you get to know a few things. Like, I know she does strange tricks for no treats. But the one thing I will never, for the life of me, know is how she gets so tiny and inside that box. Never.